Okay, hey, it's Mr. Hogan again. We're going to go ahead and do a quick tutorial about how you can make this terrarium. So here is an example that I have. This flower looks nice, smells bad, but it makes a really nice aesthetic part of any terrarium. So in this, you'll see I have placed some moss here, and I have an open container, so we can actually see those roots growing, and we can see any changes in the root system for our observe, record, and analyze section. Okay, so this is one example, and let's go ahead and put one together, and I'll show you kind of what I'm looking for. So I have here a box of a bunch of things. So here is one example of a container that could work. I have some chunks of moss, or maybe lichens. We'll get into that in more detail. Here's another kind of moss. Now, interesting, it has quite a few differences from the other moss. The roots seem a little bit deeper, and it's a lot more spongy. I wonder, is that a different kind of plant, or is it the same one, just got more nutrients? So we'll explore that. Here we have a chunk of some grass that we see around. Now these ones have really dense roots that connect together. This is an adaptation that these plants have to survive in the Arctic. And you will have to cut through these, but the roots should repair themselves as long as you transplant it pretty quick. Here's a little piece of cotton grass that we can add in there. Something you'll need to get this is a shovel of some kind. I just used a trowel. You can use a big shovel. If you can't find a shovel, sharp stick will do. Well, not a stick, but like if you find a piece of, I see pallet wood if you can find like a chunk of pallet wood that's strong enough that you could break the ground up with, that would help, because these roots, you will have to cut through some of them, and it can be a little bit difficult. I did do this at first with just my hands, and I could get them, but it was quite a bit more difficult. Here is another little bit of grass and moss that I collected. This one's pretty interesting because it looks like there are some types of mushrooms growing on there. We'll see if that affects our terrarium. All right, I took this one here. It is moss and a little bit of that ivy that you see, usually mixed around with that cotton grass. Okay, we have here quite a bit more ivy and some other grass. Now this is just what I could find around the school. There weren't quite a lot of options for flowering plants around the school, but if you have a four-wheeler and you can go out a little bit further, you're going to be able to find things that you might want to bring home. One, it's a little bit big. If you got a big enough plant, it'd be super cool to see an ochpic berry bush. That would be very interesting. I don't expect anyone to do that, but if you do, thumbs up, that'd be super cool. So yeah, let's go ahead and put this together. Yeah, again, this is one example. This one would be super easy. So here, left over on the bottom, I have a lot of soil. I didn't have to dig up any additional soil. The roots take up quite a bit. Just put that in the bottom. You're going to want something for the roots to grow into. But tundra plants, since they grow pretty shallow, and if you're taking these out of the ground, they're going to have quite a bit of soil on them. You don't actually need a lot of space. So simple as taking your tray, placing your plants in there, and then you're going to fill in the spaces with any extra dirt that you have. So getting it all over my floor. So if you're doing this at home and you don't want to make your family upset with you making a mess, you can probably just set out a trash bag so that way you can have some easy cleanup here. So here I filled in a little bit of the spaces, but the rest of the spaces I'm actually going to take some of that moss that I had, and this moss here, as you probably will find out, breaks apart really easy. So just take the section that you think you're going to use and place it next to your plants. So I have just a couple spots here. I'm kind of having to squish it in there a little bit, but over time it should settle. So there we go. Now, this is where you would, so it doesn't look the most pretty. You can add some rocks and decorations to make this look a little bit nicer. And I'm not a huge fan of this tray, but this will work. Okay, so the other way we're going to go ahead and do that is with this 2-liter water bottle here. Okay, so make sure you rinse it out. You don't want any soda in there. Plants don't like soda. I'm just going to take a fillet knife here and cut through it. And I'm doing it at the top here where the bottle kind of starts to angle. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're actually going to go ahead and invert that. So we got a closed system here. So if you don't have tape, you can literally just wedge it in there and it should be fine. I wedged it in there at home, and we had that weather system that I was talking about. But that's the space that you have to work with. So be aware of that when you're building it. So let's go ahead and start with a little bit of soil. So here I just have, again, about a cup of soil. That's what that looks like. And we're going to lay this one on its side. Okay. And I'm going to choose my plants here that will fit in there. Now I might have to take it apart a little bit to make sure it fits. So here I have this big chunk that came up with this ivy. I'm actually going to go ahead and literally just tear the roots apart. So here we see the roots of the ivy, to get hopefully just the ivy plant itself. And remember, the following, was it Thursday or Tuesday? I don't remember what I put up there. We will try and identify these, okay? So here we have mostly roots, and that is grown in with that moss. So you'll see that symbiotic relationship with these plants. I'm just gonna put it in there. Okay, just like so. I'm going to move the soil around, so hopefully it gets in there. And then I don't really have a lot more room for more things here. So I'm going to take, I had those 2 kinds of moss. I'm going to get the spongy moss here. I'm going to remove it from its bulky root structure. You'll see there are a lot of different colors. We got our black, a little bit of red, and a little bit of brown here. And, you know, that could be a clue about what kind of nutrients it requires to survive when we get to that point. So here we have this really spongy moss with these really awesome red roots. Now, I'm going to wrap that around my plant here just to give it a little decorative nature. But then also, this will keep it really moist as well. And I'm going to take this other kind of moss and put it on the other side. I'm going to have to break it kind of thin like that. Okay. And I'm going to squeeze that in there also around the other side of the roots. Okay. Now, for viewing purposes, I've got quite a bit of dirt in there. I'm going to take a napkin and actually clean that off so we can see the changes a little bit better. And I'm reaching in there, moving things around, kind of how I want to see them. I suggest you guys do the same. Hold on a minute while I grab a napkin. Okay, so I have cleared it off a little bit so we can see through it a little bit more. My hand was a little bit too big. It took a little bit of maneuvering to get in there, but that should do. So now I'm going to add my decorations here. I found, you know, just some rocks from the beach that I liked here, some of the striped ones, and just to show you, I'm going to place those in there just to give it a little added flair. And we're pretty much done at this point. Now, if I was able to identify these, I would try to put little flags in there, but I really don't have a lot of room. Now, just to make sure that these plants are getting water, I'm going to spray a little bit in there to get them started, but they were already quite wet when I picked them up out of the ground. And then we're going to put our top in there, and we're pretty much done. But you know what? Just aesthetically, I don't like that tip there, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. Okay, so I've cut that top off, and we're going to put it on there, and I'm wedging it in there and it's staying in. Now, if you're having trouble getting that to stay, we can go ahead and tape that up. Now, here I have a just something I had around the school is some electrical tape, and that should work. I'm not going to do it right now for the video because I actually like the fact that it just is wedging in there, because if I need to adjust something or if I want to make more clear observations, I can see it a little bit better. And now this isn't a totally enclosed system, but the one that I did at home this way was keeping the moisture in still pretty good. So this is an excellent way to do it. Now, you can't see it as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and move the camera here. But you can make some pretty clear observations that way. So this project is twofold. I mean, one, it's scientific. We're going to observe, record, and analyze what we're noticing. Again, keeping in mind our essential question, what are the requirements for life? But the other part is, you know, have a little fun with it. It's artistic. Building a terrarium is fun. You can be creative as you want, and you get to keep something alive. Now, kind of a follow-up question is, these plants being from the Arctic, and I want you to keep this in mind also, are they going to survive indoors? Will the temperature of your house affect their growth? Maybe you can even make comparisons over the next month or so of your plants inside your terrarium and the plants that you're noticing outdoors. Now, this is an important thing to consider, because if I'm from Kansas, if I were to take a sunflower and put it in the tundra soil, maybe it'd grow in the summertime, but by October, for sure, that thing is not going to survive. But these plants, somehow, they keep coming back year after year. So why is that? Why do they come back? So in North Slope science, we're going to get into that quite a bit. Earth science, we're going to focus more on the general aspects of it, but we'll still get there at some point. Okay, so thanks guys for watching this video. I really hope that it helped you put your project together. Again, this thing is going to be due on the 4th. Presentation's due. So that could mean you simply snap a pic with your phone and you send it to me online, or if you are not able to do that, you don't have a phone, you don't have access to the internet, you are going to have to bring it to the school, and that might just mean setting it down in front of the door if you can't get in the building. Make sure your name's on it if that's what you're doing. Sharpie on the bottle will work just fine, but I need to make sure, don't just put like random terrariums there. I'm not going to know whose they are. So make sure if you do it that way that you identify your terrarium in some form or another, okay? And if you are bringing it in, you're also going to have to make sure you have a way to identify those plants. And keep in touch, because we are going to look at that a little bit later, those plant identifiers, okay? So thanks everyone. Have a wonderful day.